Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
So much Vikings news. It's a Vikings news edition of Purple Daily. 1 week until training camp begins.
I love Vikings news.
Yes, we all do. And sprinkled into this Vikings news and sprinkled into pretty much every show this week, Judd's Camp Notes is going to fire up little nugget previews, little talking points, things that we're keeping an eye on as we wait for training camp to officially begin next week here. But let's shout out Minnesota Rusco before we get into a batch of latest Vikings news, a hot Vikings take, and also a random Viking of the week. So Minnesota Rusco has been Minnesota's hometown remodeler since 1955. We're not quite as good at the jingle as the actual jingle makers, but Cody and Casey and Minnesota Rusco with almost 70 years of experience you can count on. Whether it's windows, doors, siding, bathrooms, kitchens, decks, roofing, whatever that project is that you've been putting off, saying, oh, we'll do it later this year, maybe next year. Well, if you get a hold of Minnesota Rusco in the month of July, everything is 15% off right now through the end of the month. And that includes everything I just mentioned: roofing, decks, kitchens, bathrooms, indoor, outdoor, no payments, no interest for 12 months. And if you're ready to remodel your home and make that remodel a reality, you can go to minnesotarusco.com to find out more. minnesotarusco.com. Gentlemen, how are we doing? Sports Dad, Judd's Camp Notes. Gang's all here.
I'm excited. I'm just excited for next week. Next Wednesday, we get it on. We get out in the field. We start to see things. A week from this Monday, we put the pads on. Play some football.
Just cracking pads.
Should we get our pads? We get some pads too, and we just do this show. Some big old pads.
Sit here in a helmet. Big.
Yeah.
Well, if I can get 90 shoulder pads, yes.
You want the
Those
neck roll?
we can
old
arrange that,
school
yeah.
big shoulder pads that guys used to wear. Those were great.
I think we need to make this happen. I think it'd be great content for Judd's Camp Notes in a full 90s football uniform. The face shield, the can you wear you can't wear those anymore, right? The tinted.
No, you can.
I think some guys wear those. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say it's the rules on those have changed some sort, but I don't know how. But I just love the old school shoulder pads that were just oversized and like the uniform barely got over them. Oh, and then like Dex said, the neck rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Those were great. There's so many things about that.
Let's make this happen. I think we need to make this happen. So we'll start with some latest Vikings news here, and as part of this, we'll get to a little training camp preview. Judd's Camp Notes will guide us through
latest Vikings news.
But we start with some Vikings optimism in the news. A few different. So I feel like for a while there, it was people clowning the Vikings for their draft, for the J.J. McCarthy decision. Like, why would you turn the reins of a 14-win team over to J.J. McCarthy? And then Vegas comes in with kind of a fairly low over-under win total, 8.5, somewhere in that ballpark. But it feels like recently there's been some voices, and we'll play you a clip here. I got this on my end. From the 33rd Team podcast, Sam Munson and Steve Palazzolo, who used to be at PFF, and now they're doing their podcast with the 33rd Team platform. So they discussed the Vikings not getting enough love for their off-season grades. And this is mostly Steve talking, but take a listen.
I think the Vikings made a lot of the proper moves this offseason, just like they did the last couple off seasons. I don't think it's funny because Kwesi been positioned as this analytics GM. And if you said, what's the biggest impact he's made? It has been by far with veteran additions, whether it's trades, TJ Hawkinson, whether it's free agency, Van Ginkel, Grenard. By far, it's been veteran additions and not the draft whatsoever. Whatever models he's applying have worked much better at projecting NFL players to that roster versus the draft. Yeah. And now I can't wait to see what Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, if he hits again, right? If Kwesi hits again, if the Vikings hit again with those offseason additions, it's a really good roster.
Judd?
I think he's exactly right. That's why I was surprised. I guess the Vegas thing surprised me a little bit. I was more surprised last week though when we were going through some grades and I forget his name. The ESPN guy gave him
goof.
like the goof on the grades gave him a C plus, and I was like, that seems to be really low for a team that added quite a bit and like filled in areas of need. I think this is right. And it also, though, is what's so intriguing to me as training camp gets at start, which is this team is all in right now. Like we could argue about, well, McCarthy, you can't be, but I disagree with that. But if you look at like what this team has surrounded McCarthy with, right? And if you look at the success that this team had in winning 14 games a year ago, and then how it ended, it's pretty clear that they went back, sat down, and said, hey, we're close. How do we get there? And yeah, this like if you want to dissect their drafts as a separate discussion, I totally get that, and that's fair. But if you want to dissect what they're doing for 2025, like right now, the preparation is okay. Are they trying to win in 2026, 2027? And if you look at what they've done, the answer is no. They're trying to win right now, which is why I think in football, I give you credit too, because when you do that, like you have to capitalize on opportunities. Because football is so random at times as far as injuries go and guys age out, right? So I think that this is right, and that's why I thought that if we're gonna do the thing of grading, I mean, I thought the Vikings deserved a B plus, a B, not a C.
Yeah, and it's like some of these grades, it's like, okay, I think you kind of mentioned this. You're covering the league at large. You're pumping out content. You're trying to decide who gets a C and who gets a B minus, and it's all kind of a nebulous, subjective exercise. But one thing that Steve Palazzolo said, he made reference to like Kwesi is this analytical GM, and his inference there was you would expect him to apply those principles to crush the draft and draft value, and maybe trade back from 24. And play that game. And he's done a lot less of that. In fact, he's given up a lot more draft picks over the last few years than you think an analytically minded general manager would. You'd be in the business of stockpiling picks. But the one area where he deviated 180 degrees from the old front office, the Rick Spielman old school football front office, if you remember back to 2017, I know they went further in the playoffs, but they won 13 games with a really good defense. And they had a fork in the road going into free agency of what do we do at quarterback? Do we, because Case Keenum, you could have brought Case Keenum back. You could go spend top of the market dollar on a free agent quarterback, which we've talked about every day for 6 years. Or you could draft a quarterback and leave yourself some financial freedom to keep building on this really good roster. And it's funny because I did see a graphic going back somewhere on social media yesterday, looking at the 2018 NFL draft where Lamar Jackson went like 32nd. And that's never really talked about. I know Matthew Collar brought that up on the old 1500 ESPN when he would come on our Mackey and Judd show back in the day. And in the moment, he was like, I think there's a case to be made that they should draft a Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. So rather than getting cheaper and a little riskier, but maybe more flexible at quarterback, they took a 13-win team and spent a bunch of money on quarterback basically at the expense of the rest of the roster, right? And they plateaued as like a fringe playoff team. Well, fast forward here 6-7 years later, and a little bit of a different scenario because you're trying to decide if you keep the incumbent quarterback who's about to make a lot of money, not top of the market money, but Sam Darnold was about to go from $5 million cap hit to something closer to $30 million. And you decided, the analytically minded general manager, that no, the way to keep building this thing, unless you have a top quarterback, is to scale back on the quarterback salary, pour those resources into defensive line, offensive line, and then trust that our quarterback guru coach can immediately expedite the learning curve for this young quarterback. So that was the analytically minded thing was, don't get caught up in comfortable at quarterback and overpay for comfortable.
Right.
Build a roster, use those resources, and trust your system and your infrastructure to elevate that young quarterback.
This brings up an interesting discussion, too, and I will go back to what I've said for a long time now with this administration for the Vikings, is we don't know exactly how they work, but the very interesting discussion, and I actually like this. The Vikings have an analytical bent, okay? But they are not what I would consider to be an analytical team necessarily across the board. They do some smart things. Getting Hargrave and Allen as guys who have been released so you don't have to give up comp picks is very smart. But they also, it's funny because we just say Kwesi, we blame him or give him credit in some situations where he's very involved, but he's not like the only deciding factor. And this team also makes some smart moves, for instance, by allowing Brian Flores, I think, to very much call his shots. Yeah. And that's a football move. Now, are the Vikings going out and spending ridiculous sums of free agent money on those players? No. But they also trust in Flores. Like, that's got nothing to do with advanced metrics. That has everything to do with, hey, Brian, do you like Blake Cashman? Yep. I'm going to watch him. Yes, I like him. So I think part of the problem, too, across the board, not just in football, baseball very much as well, is we tend to think if a club has an analytical stance, that is only how they work. Like, if it's not done that way, what's going on here? I think the Vikings weave in a very nice mix of different ideas. And look, the quarterback thing goes, the reason why to this day Kwesi does not say boo in as far as what he is quoted, in newspaper pieces, radio, and TV, is to go back to that first time that he talked to Jory Epstein, USA Today, May of 22, when he spelled out brilliantly, by the way, how he felt about Cousins and the quarterback position. And he flat out said, he's not Tom Brady. You can't spend this much on a guy who's not Tom Brady. So if J.J. McCarthy hits, they're going to eventually pay him a ton. But the brilliance of that, the correct thing, this shouldn't be tough, but it somehow is, hey, just because you have a guy who is good doesn't mean you're going to win a Super Bowl. So I think the Vikings do a very nice job, as far as I can tell, of marrying a lot of different philosophies to get to a pretty good place.
Yeah, and also there's a lot more examples of loaded rosters with talented but young, cheap quarterbacks making deep playoff runs than really good quarterbacks, not elite, but really good quarterbacks who get overpaid at the expense of the roster, making a deep run into the Super Bowl.
There's a big controversy right now, I believe, because Jeremy Fowler, our guy at ESPN, just came out with his list from talking to executives and coaches of the top 10 QBs. And I believe Jalen Hurts was left out, correct?
Yeah, myself.
And so there's a big controversy now. I saw Sirianni's all,
it's absurd. Yeah.
This is BS. It's absurd. But I understand why he's left out, because Philadelphia is doing exactly what we're talking about. Hurts is very, very good, and he might be top 10. This is not to debate that. But this is to say, Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, has built a team and a roster that allows Hurts to be successful, but in part because they built such a good roster. That defense, the defensive line, right? So, this is how, look, Brady's come along, and that's awesome. And they can win Super Bowls, not by themselves, but they can have a huge, huge role. But the reality is, if you're going to win a Super Bowl, the way that the Vikings are going about it right now, I think gives you a much better chance, because you can build out your roster as opposed to having one single guy who might get you to the playoffs, might play well, might not, but he is going to eat up so much cap space that now you can't address, for instance, offensive line interior, defensive tackle interior.
FYI, Jalen Hurts wasn't ranked in the top 10. He was number 9.
He was number 9.
He was number 9. He was
but Sirianni was still felt very disrespected by that rank. I saw those same quotes.
But behind Jared Goff at 8, Justin Herbert 7, Matthew Stafford 6, Jaden Daniels 5, and then we all know who the top 4 are. So I mean, I like Jalen Hurts. I feel like I'm probably a little more optimistic or more bullish on him than maybe you two are. But I wouldn't fight anyone that said Jared Goff and Justin Herbert. Well, that one I would. Matthew Stafford are better than Jalen Hurts. I wouldn't die on a hill over it.
But I think the point there is, if they feel Hurts is being disrespected, it's because the rest of the roster is good too, and that's what I would prefer. I would prefer to have McCarthy get slighted in rankings because the rest of the roster is good, because that's how you're going to win, clearly.
Yeah, keep sleeping. Keep sleeping is what Judd said. And Sirianni.
Anybody got any Vikings news?
So this is Chris Long from the Greenlight podcast on Mina Kimes' podcast, and they were ranking all 32 NFL teams and going through this exercise. And they landed on the Vikings as the 11th best team in the NFL, and here is a snippet of their thought.
Up front, like they're just every player they brought into that front seven is such a perfect fit for.
Heck yeah, that's why I'm gonna take the Vikings because they also try to get more physical offensively. And listen, I know it was just a preseason game, but they had JJ McCarthy out there with a full day's work, and he ended up getting hurt, but he looked capable. I mean, it's one preseason look, but I trust the head coach. I think there's reason to believe they really like this JJ McCarthy. Like they not just for drafting him, but they said no thanks on Aaron Rodgers. They said, hey, no thanks on Darnold coming back. Like it's time. Yeah. And I think KOC's seen a lot of quarterbacks in his young career as a head coach, and this could be the one he really likes. And yeah, this team's got potential. I like the Vikings.
Just add another credible football commentator. Both of them, actually, Mina Kimes and Chris Long. They're not high enough to put the Vikings in the top 10 quite yet, but a fringe top 10 team according to their rankings.
The Chris Long thing that I like, though, and I agree completely with, and they tried to do this a little bit in 2024, but I think they're going to succeed now, is the physicality on the lines. I think that's huge. I think that is absolutely huge. I think they finally learned in the Detroit game, which is clearly a very physical team, and then the Rams game, you cannot win in January without that.
Well, and to that point, just to put a bow on this bin of Vikings optimism around the NFL media sphere, Warren Sharp, who may be making a Purple Daily appearance here in the next couple weeks. We're talking to Warren Sharp behind the scenes. So Warren Sharp, you want to talk about football analytics, Warren Sharp does a great job sort of spelling out the analytical side of football. And he said the Vikings have the best front seven defense in the NFL on sharpfootballanalysis.com. Here's the excerpt. The biggest mover across our entire front seven rankings was the Minnesota Vikings front seven, which jumped 24 spots to number one. From number 24 to number one, or is it 25 to number one? Whatever it was. The Vikings added both Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave to a defensive front that finished 6th in pressure rate and 4th in sacks last season. So my question I present to you guys is, if he's right, if this comes to fruition, where like the Eagles had the best front seven, deepest front seven last year, but depth was eroded through free agency a little bit, right? If the Vikings finish the regular season with subjectively and or measurably the best front seven defensively in the league, how will their season end?
I mean, if that's the case, because that, again, we don't talk about it much in this context, but that, again, benefits McCarthy and the offense a lot. Their season could end in the Super Bowl.
No.
How about that?
You walked up and you're like,
if that holds up,
you
well,
said
I was trying to
could
end up in the Super Bowl.
You said, instead of saying will win,
you
said could end up in the Super Bowl. But we'll take it.
That's what I'm going to give you. Could end up in the
Sports
Super Bowl.
Dad walked up to the ledge, looked down at the water.
He put him number one, though. I mean,
the number one defensive front seven in the NFL. Wowza. But if you think about it, so the three down linemen in this sort of hybrid 3-4 defense, you've got Hargrave, who's been, when he's been healthy, and last year he missed a bunch of games. Both these guys did, Jonathan Allen too. But he's been one of the best 5 interior pass rushers in the league. Jonathan Allen, up until last season, was probably more like 8 to 10 on that list. And then Harrison Phillips, who's just a good, solid, every down defensive lineman. And so you go from Harrison Phillips being easily your best defensive lineman to maybe being, if all three of those guys are playing at their peak, maybe being third on that list, for sure second behind Hargrave. And then Grenard, Van Ginkel, the way they fit into the system. And then obviously your first-round pick, Dallas Turner. And this also, I think, would include your 2 inside linebackers, Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace. You have some more depth there this season. So when you go through it, all of them have very unique high-end strengths and or upside that they've yet to tap into in the case of Dallas Turner.
Yeah, and speaking of depth too, go back to that. The depth now allows guys that probably interior defensive line would have had to play too much to play the proper amount and develop as well. Like if this all works out, it's absolutely ideal. And I am very, as excited as we all are to watch McCarthy, I am almost as excited to watch the defense now because it feels like Flores now has a complete list of ingredients. 2 years ago, he did a great job, but let's be honest. I mean, the ingredients were okay, fine. Like some were good, but across the board, not ideal. A year ago, you add a Van Ginkel to the stew, you add a Grenard, but the defensive line definitely had some holes. But now, if you can get those guys and you get pressure from the inside consistently from the defensive line, you can create real havoc.
I mean, to answer the question, and Dex, you answer it too, but I think I don't know how you would measure it, but if they would be the number one defensive front seven unit in the NFL, they're for sure playing in the Super Bowl. Whether they win it or not kind of depends on who you're facing. I mean, you're going to face Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or maybe Lamar Jackson gets there. What do you think, Dex?
I think they're one of the 4 final teams. To pull a doogie on all of us, I mean, what were the top 4 teams in front 7 rankings in 2024? And were they some of the final 4 teams? Because I would like to think at probably the top 5 teams were all playoff teams or near being one of the final 4 teams. Because if that's the case, then yes, I do think that they're probably a final 4 is where I'd put the bar at.
Yeah. So it's like there's so many things like trending against the Vikings not making the playoffs if you look at Vegas and some of the win projections. But when you listen to Sam and Steve, 33rd team, and Chris Long, they're bringing a lot of national logic, the things that we've been saying for months and months, which is maybe they don't win 14 games again because the ball has to bounce your way a certain amount of times for you to get 14 wins. But like on paper, a 14-win team got better unless you think there's zero chance that J.J. McCarthy can match what Sam Darnold did in this system. Well, he's never going to throw for 36. I'm not interested in if he can match the touchdown passes. I'm interested if he can sit in the car. Maybe they score more rushing touchdowns. Maybe the passing touchdowns come down, but the completion percentage, the accuracy, the yards after the catch, things that set the team up to be better go up because he's just a more talented quarterback.
And I don't think the way to think about it, too, is a 14-win team because that team got to a nut cutting time and got beat pretty soundly. So like my question is, are you a playoff team? I think that if all things go correct, I think the answer is definitely. And then when you get to the playoffs, are you a playoff team? Mm-hmm. Like I think we can all say that in retrospect, the 2024 Vikings were not a playoff team in the sense of once they got there, can you take the punch? Can you play that physical style? Can you trade punches? And unfortunately, the answer was no. So I think there's 2 things here. First of all, what's it going to take a win total in the North to get you into the playoffs? Because that's what's important. Ideally, you win the division. But then, like as constructed now, I would put this team against last year's team in January in a heartbeat.
Actually, I have a hottest Vikings take just to put a bow on this. Presented by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Just Declan, shout out Standard, then I'll give you this hottest Vikings take.
That's right. I got Standard on the way to the house here in a couple weeks. They're going to look at that air conditioner. It's an old air conditioner unit, okay? Even when I bought the house, I had my guy Connor out from Standard Heating and said, yeah, that thing is near the end of its life. And let's just say, even last night going to bed, a little steamy, little sticky upstairs because that AC is not pumping as well as it should be. So my friends at Standard Heating are going to take a look at that. I am not touching that thing. I'm letting the experts handle it at Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. You talk about a front 7. That's your front 7 at Standard Heating and Air. They're going to make life so much easier for you. Tell them that Purple Daily sent you. Text them, email them, call them. They'll make the contacting easier. Go to standardheating.com to learn more. Empowering Mackey's Hot Take.
Okay. My first conscious memory of a Viking season was 1990, 1991, like Wade Wilson, Anthony Carter, Jerry Burns was the head coach.
Yep.
And so in my life following Vikings football, I think this is one of the 3 most slept on Vikings teams over 35 years of conscious Vikings memories. And I back this up with research. It'd be a little too hot of a take if I said it was the most slept on Vikings team, because going back to 1998, the preseason, the Vegas over-under win total for the 1998 Vikings was 8.5. And they rip off 15-1, the number 1 scoring offense in the history of the NFL. The 2017 Vikings team, preseason over-under of 8.5. You knew they'd have a pretty good defense. And obviously, like, you thought that Sam Bradford was going to be the quarterback, and immediately Case Keenum jumps in. Everyone thought it was over, and then they surprised people. So I think 98's the number 1 most slept on team. People thought they were going to be decent, but not like historically good. This is in the mix for the 2nd most slept on Vikings team that I can remember. A 14-win team. And the Vegas lines think they're going to drop by like 6 wins this season just because Ben Johnson showed up in the division as a new head coach. They've upgraded offensive and defensive lines. They may have upgraded at quarterback. Kevin O'Connell seems to think so. They beefed up their running back room. They're adding a fully healthy TJ Hawkinson. He was not fully healthy. He didn't even start playing until like halfway through the season. So all they did was add to a 14-win team. So it just seems like the 8.5 and the way people think they're going to finish in last place, it is one of the 2 or 3 most slept on Vikings teams that I can remember since 1990.
So let's take out 2017 is an outlier because of a couple of things. One is they were going to go into the season with Bradford at quarterback. He played great in the first game, got hurt. Keenum comes in, and I think that they went to Pittsburgh and lost, and we're all like, oh, they're screwed, right? So like that's a weird year. But I think 98's an interesting parallel, and here's why. 98, first of all, the quarterback was supposed to be Brad Johnson. Chris Carter was very good still. Jake Reed was good still. And you had this kid coming in, Randy Moss, and you didn't really know. Like, you didn't know. You had no idea. And then Johnson gets hurt. Cunningham comes in. And probably most importantly, Randy Moss was magical. I mean, you show me the amount, and it would be on one hand at best, of seasons in which a receiver changed a team's season completely. Because, like, he can't throw himself the ball. So, in this case, I think the parallel is 100% McCarthy. McCarthy is, you got a new quarterback. We don't really know. Be careful. Darnold's gone. Be careful. Darnold was good. Be careful. And so I think there's a real parallel there. Like that is, my opinion is Vegas is sort of, if this is the right term, crapping on the Vikings because of that. Because they're saying, we don't know. We're just not quite sure. And what the Vikings are saying is, hold on a second here. First of all, we took Darnold from a nobody, from a nothing, from a failure, and we turned him into, for the most part, a Pro Bowl quarterback, and we got him paid. And now we have built this team, both offensively and defensively, that a quarterback a smart one, can get in with and thrive with. He doesn't have to ball out, but he has to be good. And so I really do see the parallel because nobody saw Moss coming, and this is not to compare Moss and McCarthy, but this is to say, I think McCarthy can far exceed what the expectations of the wise guys are. And therefore I can definitely see that comparison at least.
Yeah. That's the funny thing. It's like they were punished a year ago with a 6.5 over under because Sam Darnold was their starting quarterback.
That's how it works.
And then they take Sam Darnold's career from shambles and build up all this value and turn him into a real quarterback again. And now they're getting punished because they moved on from Sam Darnold. Like, oh, well, you moved on from Sam Darnold, so we're have to knock 5 wins off your total, 6 wins off your total.
But that's the sneaky thing, because a year before that, they got or going into last year, they got punished for moving on from Cousins, who was coming off a torn Achilles. Like that's the one thing is, if I bet, which I really don't do much, but if I bet, like that is a great thing to look at. Like, where are the wise guys missing the opportunity? Because ordinarily they're really good.
Yeah, well, maybe they should listen to Purple Daily more often, and maybe they should follow Judd's camp notes. Give us to wrap latest Vikings news. By the way, Jordan Addison, I should throw this in here too.
Yeah.
So
more more Vikings
Kevin
news.
Seifert, ESPN, Jordan Addison's jury trial stemming from his 2024 DUI citation remains set for today in Superior Court of California. Addison has pleaded not guilty. So, and then Schefter adds here, if convicted, Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison could be facing a baseline 3-game suspension per NFL policy. So I'm assuming we'll know more later today on, does the jury trial for this last more than a day?
I would hope not. It's a misdemeanor. But I was going to say, and if we have, and I know that we do, some folks in the law department, Chase, for instance, out there, I don't think these ever go to trial. I don't think these ever go to trial. So this is, to me, what this is it's a Hail Mary, because if he cuts a deal, he probably would get a fine.
Yeah.
But he also is then subject to a 3-game suspension. So I'm guessing that the Addison defense team is like, let's go to trial. Let's try and win, because if he's found not guilty, I think he would not be subject, I believe, to a suspension then.
Yeah, so he's fighting to make sure that he doesn't get suspended. Makes sense. Okay. Judd's Camp Notes.
Okay. Latest Vikings
preview
news.
Item of the day.
Okay, this is what I'm going to be watching for.
Oh, the Knox. The big ones.
Oh,
those are the big ones.
Yeah,
Judd usually has the other ones at Twins games. With me, they're a little smaller.
No.
The same ones?
Twins games, yeah. Twins games right here, baby.
They look huge on the screen.
Those do look large. Maybe it's just
here.
the angle of the camera.
It's what I'll be watching, though, for. Let's start with this one. Opening day of training camp. So the opening day of training camp is Wednesday. The first day that they're going to be in full pads and hit is on Monday. Let's talk about the offensive line, okay? Because clearly it's redone. But what's interesting here is who's going to be participating and when to grow the continuity of that first team line. Will Fries did not take part in any of the OTAs or the mini camp because he suffered a fractured tibia in week 5 and missed the rest of the season at right guard. Now, O'Connell was asked about this at the beginning of OTAs and said, we're being cautious, like it's going well, but I am curious to see if he's going to be on the field on Wednesday, because it wouldn't be shocking if he's not. They're clearly going, if you're going to do something here, you're going to err on the side of caution. And if Fries is not there, I would imagine he would join practice fairly quickly, but Blake Brandel will replace him. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room situation, which is the left tackle, Christian Darrisaw.
Yeah.
So he was actually taking part in individual drills in minicamp with a huge brace, taking part in nothing else. My guess is that he is going to start training camp on the pup. Now, this is the pup where he can come off at any time. If in the final cuts he's put on the pup, which is known as the reserve pup, he has to miss the first 4 games, which would not shock me. They're going to be, this guy suffered, he suffered a torn ACL and I want to say an MCL against the Rams in week 7, which means Justin School, a 6th round pick by the Niners in 2019, played in 31 games, started 12 for them, and then went to Tampa Bay for the past 3 seasons, had 5 starts last year. Now, the interesting thing on Darrisaw is this one, too, you guys. So he has now played 4 seasons with the Vikings. He has never played a full season. He's played 12 games as a rookie, 15 games. He came close in 23, and 7 last year. But as far as the continuity of the line developing, opening day of camp, Donovan Jackson, the first round pick, will be at left guard. Ryan Kelly will be at center. Brian O'Neill will be at right tackle. But I am curious if and when we are going to see the entire 5-man group together. And I won't be shocked if we don't see it until week 5 of the regular season, if and when Darrisaw can return then.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a talking point there, kind of brewing, or maybe even a potential problem early in the season that because to this point it's been J.J. McCarthy stepping in, and they finally solidified and fixed the offensive line, and left to right, it's the best 5-man unit they've had since whenever, right? But if your star left tackle doesn't play for the first handful of games, we'll see about Will Fries, the right guard, as you mentioned. And then the other guys Ryan Kelly's getting up there. There's they're gonna miss games, and if a couple of them are missing games early, you'd like to make some hay with the quote unquote easy part of your schedule. But that is something that Judd's camp notes is going to have to monitor. The cohesiveness, the depth.
Oh, yeah.
Because you might be running out a backup left tackle, maybe a backup interior guy in there at some point early in the season. Something to watch.
I also think it's now become a talker, and it's unfortunate, but the Darisaw injury factor. Concussions, now the knee. Like, you love to have a left tackle, just a bull, and you can put him in there, and he doesn't come out. That doesn't happen much, but in this case, again, he has never played all 17 games, and he's so good. And he did last July he got a 4-year contract extension, $77 million guaranteed, and he deserved it. But I also don't think that we can sleep on the fact that he has not been able to consistently so far in his career stay healthy.
Yep. No, it's a fair point. Sometimes it's luck. It's like no one's calling him soft. You get
That's what I got for you guys.
You get a knee rolled up on.
Well, I like how you said he was in a big brace and nothing else. So he just had a big leg brace on and was just in his birthday suit out there in the team drills, just
and a helmet.
And a helmet.
Oh, yeah, you gotta have a helmet. You should have seen this brace, boys. This brace was enormous, and I guess he's like, I want to do something. They're like, okay, fine, go stretch. But that's a long way from taking reps.
Go touch your toes if you can.
Go stretch. And put some pants on, for Christ's sake.
Is that some Vikings news I see?
No, Judd, that's the end of the Vikings news here.
Oh, damn it.
On this Tuesday. But we will sprinkle in more Judd's Camp Notes preview items throughout the week. We'll get our guy Darren Doogie Wolfson in for a little Purple Daily episode here later today, too. You're going to get 2 episodes today. I have a random Viking of the week for you guys as we continue on the revamped, rebooted version of Random Viking of the Week. A shout out to Butcher and the Boar for powering Random Viking of the Week today.
All right. It's gorgeous outside. It's July downtown and the North Loop in particular. They are, dare I say, hopping. And let's talk about...
hopping.
The Butcher and the Boar, North Loop.
No cap.
Let's talk about the beer garden. Let's talk about the new beer garden. Absolutely a great place to hang on a gorgeous July or August summer day. We're talking juicy burgers, crispy fried chicken. How about this, boys? Handmade brats. All of them available along with some outstanding selections in beers and craft cocktails as well. Of course, inside Southern-style hospitality dining that if you've tried it, you know is absolutely delicious. So check it out. Butcher and the Boar, North Loop. If you're going to a ball game, I'm going to tell you right now, that patio is the perfect place to hang pre or post game and also enjoy some of that great, delicious food.
Also, thanks to Federated Mutual Insurance Company for helping keep this a 7-day-a-week football show for you guys. Federated, it's an excellent place to work in addition to being a great place for your business to partner with if you're looking for frontline protection. But if you're looking for a better place to work or maybe a place to start your career, Federated hires special, driven people who fit the Federated culture, people who value and exhibit integrity, teamwork, respect, and equity. They hire a lot of former college athletes, too. So if these things describe you and you're interested in finding out more about Federated's workplace culture, the opportunities, visit federatedinsurance.com/careers. That's federatedinsurance.com/careers to learn more. Okay, so we've done 10 of these in the revamped, rebooted version of Random Viking of the Week, where all of the players are back in the pool, available to be selected. Wade Wilson, Donovan McNabb, and Ray Edwards are the last 3, all 3 Judd victories. Before that, it was a 7-game winning streak for me, blatant cheating. Declan's still looking for his first victory here in the reboot of Random Viking of the Week. Dex, are you ready? You're going to be aggressive, or are you going to lay back and let Judd burn himself out? What's
I don't know. I feel like, I've been watching quarterback, and, when the Lions and Jared Goff finally got that first win against the Vikings, which I remember vividly in 2021, and then they started they basically went on a roll after that. Yeah. So, I'm just like them. I'm 0-9. I'm 0-9 right now. Is this the start of something? And then, my head coach is going to start crying, and we're just going to start saying we're going for it. Every bleeping down, as long as it's not 4th and 20, we are going for it every down. So,
that's great. He's up at the front of the room. Dude, if you haven't watched, I'm 3 episodes in. Jared Goff is much different than maybe you think from the outside looking in. Joe Burrow is exactly who you would think.
Yeah. I have a statement for Mackey and Judd later today on my ranking of favorite people so far in quarterback.
Okay, clue number 1. This random Viking spent time with 4 different NFL organizations. So he played for 3 of them officially, and then the 4th one, he was an off-season member only. He did not get into an actual game. This random Viking averaged 3.8 yards per rushing attempt in his career. And once threw a touchdown pass to Terrell Owens.
No, it's not Donovan. Yeah, we did him last week. Okay.
This random Viking was a star in 3 high school sports. Football, obviously, baseball, and basketball. Won a state title in basketball. I don't know if he won state titles in football and baseball, but definitely basketball. This random Viking once started for a Rose Bowl winning team in college. Somewhat surprisingly, I don't believe this random Viking was mentioned in any of our 53-man roster exercises. So we've done 3 straight Mondays. We've done the all quarter century team, all jag, all bust. And I'm a little surprised, mildly surprised, that this random Viking, I don't remember his name even coming up.
Okay, I was going to say. Okay. All right.
This random Viking is currently a senior vice president of a wealth management company in the upper Midwest. Speaking of baseball, by the way, he was drafted twice in the Major League Baseball draft.
Wow.
By the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Okay. I don't think we mentioned this guy, but I'm going to throw out a guess because I think he had one stop there. Is this Brooks Bollinger?
Brooks Bollinger. For Declan's first win in the reboot?
Come on. Come on.
Let's go!
Let's go! Yes!
Yes! Brooks Bollinger!
Yes!
Nice.
A 50th round draft pick
On the
in
board.
back-to-back years by the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Wow.
We had only a few clues left here, but in that Rose Bowl, he was the starting quarterback for Wisconsin against Stanford, and they ran the ball 53 times, led by Ron Dane's 34 rushing attempts.
Very nice.
He was in Dallas at the end, right?
His last ever touchdown pass was with Dallas to Terrell Owens.
Yeah,
in
I remember
2009.
And then VP of, I felt like this was a Midwest dude, so I was like, okay,
Dakota.
probably Brooks. Sounds like a Brooks Bollinger.
Nice.
But, wow. All right.
He was traded to the Vikings while the Vikings were in the old Texas Stadium to play the Cowboys in a preseason game in which it ended up in overtime tie.
Oh my God.
Parcells and Childress. Childress was pissed.
Yeah. Yep. That was like early Tony Romo stage too, wasn't Tony Romo fighting for the starting
job? 2006 or 7.
Wow.
So there it is. Declan is on the board.
Declan on
in the
board.
reboot.
Very nice.
Yeah. 7 wins for me, 3 for Judd, 1 for
Update
Declan.
those standings. 1.
Right.
There we go. 1.
It'll be Judd's turn to throw out the clues next week. We'll give you a second episode of Purple Daily here when we catch up later today with our guy Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department, for the Sports Dad, for Judd's Camp Notes, For the often mustached Declan, I am Phil. It's Purple Daily. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See you.